the silent wounds of war. The world sees the destruction of war, the bombed buildings, the mass graves, the refugees fleeing for their lives. But what about the scars no one sees, the ones left on the minds of those who survive? War doesn't just take lives, it shatters minds. Amina was born into war. By the time she turned 5, she had already witnessed more death than most will in a lifetime. She lost her father to a stray bullet, her school to an airstrike, and her innocence to the horrors surrounding her. She doesn't cry anymore, she just stares. Trauma has stolen her childhood. Across the world, millions of children like Amina live in constant fear, growing up in battle zones where survival is the only lesson they learn. David was once a soldier, but he didn't die on the battlefield. Instead, he returned home carrying a war inside him. Nightmares of fallen comrades haunt his sleep. Loud noises send him into panic. The war is over for the world, but it still rages in his mind. Like David, many former soldiers struggle with PTSD, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Many are abandoned, left to fight their mental battles alone. Layla, a young woman from a war-torn village, was taken by armed rebels. She survived captivity, but the world around her never saw her the same again. War took more than her home. It took her dignity. The shame, the trauma, and the fear never left her. In conflict zones, gender-based violence is used as a weapon, leaving thousands of women and girls traumatized. Many are rejected by their own communities, suffering in silence. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, decades of conflict have left generations scarred. More than 6 million people have died, and those who survive live with unspoken pain. Mental health services are almost non-existent. The trauma is buried, festering beneath the surface. Yet the world remains silent. War doesn't end when the guns stop firing. The psychological wounds last a lifetime. It's time we acknowledge the mental health crisis in war zones. Governments must invest in trauma care for survivors. Aid organizations must prioritize psychological support, not just food and shelter. The world must listen to the silent cries of war's forgotten victims. This is not just a story. It's a reality for millions. Be the voice. If this story moved you, share it. Let's raise awareness and demand change. No one should suffer in silence.